So, yeah, I can hear you guys.
Cool. Mr. Tying Knots.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
What about tying knots?
What are you, Mr. Tying Knots?
Why?
I don't know. Thought maybe you'd be that guy.
I'm confused.
My work here is done.
Is it?
I don't know.
Alrighty. Are we ready?
I suppose I am.
Okay. So here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Hello there, Fearless Gamers, and welcome to another podcast here on Fearless Games. I'm Matt the Vet, and today I'm joined by...
Matt the Clown.
So I was yawning, sorry. The wild card, James. It was an epic yawn. It was an epic yawn of epicosity, right?
He's a sleepy baby. It's okay. He's allowed to be a sleepy baby.
You wake me up every once in a decade, and it's a long sleep. It's been decades since the last podcast.
Decades, you say?
I don't know.
I don't think you know what a decade is.
Maybe I do.
I don't think you do.
Listen, I just bought printer ink the other day. Why is it still ridiculously expensive to get ink?
What printer did you buy it for?
Doesn't matter. I price check just random printer ink for other printers and then printers, and I'm like, you know what? Might as well just buy a new printer at this rate.
Yeah. It depends on it. Like, I find that the Kodak stuff is actually fairly reasonably priced.
It's still expensive for printer ink. When you look at the printers, like $60, and printer ink comes out like $57. You're like,
depends on what.
Maybe just get a printer.
Depends on which printer you're getting. Like, if you're doing
really
Lexmark
doesn't.
or Canon.
I went down the printer aisle and the printer ink aisle, and yeah, of course, there's a price disparity, and laser stuff is, of course, going to be still the price of drugs because it's ridiculously expensive. But it's for like your standard inkjet. It's like they should just stop selling. They just make printers disposable. You know, forget about buying ink. Just take a disposable. I
don't know where you're going, but I get ink for my black and my color for like $30, which is half the price of a printer.
I don't know. It still, to me, seems expensive for ink.
This coming from a guy who plays a hobby where it's
That's
like
a hobby
$40.
Where you enjoy what you're doing. A printer ink is I needed that to print documents. It's like if my hobby was printer ink, I'd be okay with it.
Also, just because printer ink is overpriced, in his opinion, doesn't mean that his hobby stuff isn't also overpriced.
Yeah.
Like, just because he's willing... clearly he spent the money to get the ink, but...
Or did he? Did you buy the new printer?
No, I bought the ink. But
yeah,
it's like...
But at the same time, yeah, it's expensive. It's way more expensive than it should be.
And hobbies are expensive,
I
too.
disagree, personally, but that's just me.
I can buy ink, like bottles of ink that you could theoretically take and then inject, via a needle that people sometimes do, and it's like a tenth the cost, if that, for like all the colors you need.
I've heard that injecting ink makes it last less.
But my point is, like, you're getting, how, like, the price of the ink, right, is for 9 milliliters worth of ink per color.
Mm-hmm. I
can get 50 milliliters worth of ink for all those colors for more than half the price, less than half the price, more than half off of what you get for the 9 mils of each color. So,
but like I said, I've just always heard that injecting an old cartridge with it makes the cartridge actually lose the ink quicker for some odd reason.
Yeah, it's probably because
still might come out to be cheaper.
It might be, but that just seems like too much work. That seems like you're addicted to heroin at that point. It's like you got needles involved.
Oh man, I gotta print these reports. I gotta do it.
Check it out. I got cyan ink.
I can't read stuff on a screen. Makes my eyeballs itch.
So, I don't know why this seemed like a perfect leadoff, but it did. I was doing a thought experiment on, just on Space Marine chapter creation, just because that's the wargame I play. And I think I know why many places don't do a full-on like pseudo-Aztec, pseudo-Mayan viewpoint on things. I mean, the closest we got is the lizard men, which really aren't, because they're more named like, I'm Croc. I'm a gigantic crocodile, and I worship things. And you got Crow. Yeah. But, like, what comes down to it with that stuff, and I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner, is the naming structure. Oh, my God. For anything Aztecian. And I knew that because I studied this in college with archaeology. You have Teotihuacan and Tenochtitlan. I'm not even pronouncing it ethnically correctly. That's just the best English pronunciation we can get. And then you have Tehacoco, and then you have other things, and OTLY.
Other things? Wait, other things is a name?
No, but you have like these other names. And
it should
other names
be.
that he doesn't. I can't want to do the linguistic gymnastics to pronounce.
And then you look at how they're spelled, and you go, nobody would pick up an army with this
right.
Like, it's a vomiting of letters onto paper, and nobody would be interested.
There'd be a lot of letters going, did you slap your against the keyboard?
Yeah.
Are you okay? Do you need a doctor?
And I find, ancient Aztec and ancient Mayan stuff very interesting. I like that culturistic stuff. I mean, the Mayan war sword is killer, but, like, the names... Oh, my God. It's like, what does that mean? Oh, that is a word, and what that means is rain. Because it looks like vomit. All right, so what's this word? This is a gigantic word. What does that mean? That means he who likes to rule things. So a king? No, it's not. It doesn't actually mean king. We don't actually say king here. It's just like...
It means you like to rule
a whole lot more
things.
Yes. So, I mean, that I think is the ultimate reason why we don't see more things in sci-fi or fantasy across the board that even touch the Aztec things. So they go, what would be cool? I like those Aztec pyramids. What's the name for that? You don't want to know, sir. Well, let's just skip.
I do find you occasionally see the visuals.
Alien.
You do occasionally see the visual aspect of like Aztec and Mayan cultures. You just literally, you never do hear the names of things unless it's like you can't get around to. Like occasionally, they'll go to like Chichen Itza or something.
Yeah.
And that's like that's one of the wonders of the world. So like you can easily get away with that because it's not hard to find out how most people pronounce it. But you're not gonna be like talking about any of the names that you mentioned before that I can't remember how to pronounce.
Yeah,
what was that? Tetracoco? Was that one of them?
It's Tehecoco, and then there's
Tehecoco. Okay.
One of the big cities was Teotihuacan, and that's not even pronouncing it like correctly with correct enunciations in linguistics. That's just how English can say the word.
Yeah, like that's it's just I do remember like I don't remember what class it was.
See that word I put in there? I put a word in the chat box. Oh. What would you think that is?
Poco.
Chimichanga.
You know what that is? That's a person.
That's you see, now I remember seeing names like these in books for some class I took. I don't remember what class. And anytime I would see that word, or a word like it, my butthole tightened a little bit. Because you look at it and you go, I can't process this. I can't process this series of letters.
And that's a tame, and for anybody wondering, it's like Chimalapopoca. Something like that. It's Chimalpopoca. That's tame, because there's enough vowels and consonants next to each other. Sometimes you just get a whole slew of letters, and you're like, you gotta start over.
The most common example is Quetzalcoatl, I would imagine. And you look at how that word is pronounced, and you just wonder.
Yeah.
You just wonder who sneezed.
You look at one of the 14 spelling variations of it, because nobody knows how to spell it anymore.
Right, because it was
not even the people who spelled it.
Yeah, they had to say the word. And it's like, so what's that? Yeah, I there's a Q in there, I think, maybe.
Maybe it's a snake with feathers.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some words right now, and it instantly gives you a slight headache.
Right, right. Like it's
like this one.
There's a physical reaction.
Like here,
this another one.
Like this one. This is a this is a god.
Well, I quit. I'm done. I hereby tender my resignation from Fearless Games. I'm gonna try this one, guys. No, I'm not. I'm not going to try this.
Okay,
I
so
got that Tlahu, and then I was like, lost me.
In case anyone's interested, the spelling is TLAHUIZCALPANTECUHTLI.
One word.
I'm pretty sure whenever anybody's listening to this podcast, they get up to that point, and they're not going to hear the rest of it because the universe just imploded
Right.
for them.
Fearless Gamers, I hereby issue a challenge. If you can say that word, even if it's not like correctly pronounced, if you can say that word in a relatively coherent manner, film it and like send us the video. I will personally go out and like buy you a set of really nice brushes and send them to you.
Yeah, but like, and just for anybody who's wondering, that is the god of the morning star, which turned out to be Venus. So it's a god, not a goddess, and it's a
god of the morning star, like, and it's not the sun.
Yeah. They're weird.
These people were high 24/7.
Well, like, what else?
What's the Mayan word for 420? Like,
anything really. But then you have because that was their sky deity, one of their sky deities. Because then there's this word that I can't even say that it represents 400 gods of the northern stars. So that each like those 400 gods are this one word, and then you look at some of their deity stuff. There's this one word. It's like Zippe Totec or something like that. Hippe Totec. As god of force, patron of war, agriculture, vegetation, diseases, seasons, rebirth, hunting, trades, and spring, the Lord of the East. He does too much stuff. He's got to start giving some, titles.
Yeah, like
he sounds like that god that went, I want to be the god of everything, so he killed all the other gods, he could be their god.
He reminds me of that guy you meet in college who's majoring in like 7 things and somehow graduating on time.
And he's not the only one. Then there's this other god who's the god of providence, matter, and the invisible, ruler of the night, great bear, impalpable, ubiquity, and the twilight, lord of the north. And it's like, what? Excuse me?
You see, now I just feel inadequate.
Who are you? I'm Bob the healer.
Right. I'm, even Apollo would be like, damn, that's an impressive resume. And Apollo was the god of, like, anything another god wasn't the god of.
Basically. It's like, Apollo, what are you doing today? Let's roll the dice. Let's see. All right. It looks like Artemis is backing off on this particular flower. I will be this flower.
So once I personally carry the sun into the sky, I will have to go and be a flower for a few days.
And you know what's really sad? This other god is the god of the sun, but it does not sound anywhere near as impressive as matter and the invisible, ruler of the night.
Right. He's both the god of things you can see and things you cannot see. He's the god of pretty much things.
God of dew.
Yeah, and then there's Tialak. I'm the rain god. You didn't try hard in school, did you, boy?
Right. That's all he gets is the rain. It's like, you know what it is? That's the Ash Ketchum of the Mayan gods. Because he overslept and all he got was Pikachu. Like,
I mean,
someone else had already grown up and taken Bulbasaur and Squirtle.
Yeah. And Quetzalcoatl is the god of wisdom, life, knowledge, morning star, fertility, patron of the winds and the light, and lord of the west. I mean,
how many gods are there for the morning star?
It's a big star. It's a big star. Like,
and it really is. And then you have Huitzilipachitli,
God bless.
god of will and the sun, patron of war and fire, lord of the south. And the problem is...
Again, another god of war.
Yeah, the thing is, you look at this...
What else did these people have to do? They did not have Netflix.
They did not. They you know how they judged how good of a soldier you were in their military? Was how many people you captured in a battle. Like, if you captured 4 people, you got to be a jaguar warrior or a falcon warrior.
You see, I would feel super hype being related to either of those creatures. Like, if someone was like, oh man, there goes Matt the Clown Jaguar, I'd be like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
But, I'm neither of those.
But, like, it's not how... Like, they don't judge it on how well did they kill things, because that's implied, obviously, in their life.
How many dudes they brought home.
How many dudes you're able to subdue and bring back while killing dudes. And remember, they're not fighting...
You're not bringing home enemies. You're bringing home resources. Those guys could be sacrificed. They could be a slave. They could be food.
Yeah, they could be all three, really.
Right, like you are bringing home resources.
Right, and the thing is, you got to remember, especially the age of the Aztecs and everything like that, when European man came in there, and they fought them, but they didn't. They have breastplates and guns and arrows. They have a big stick with a bunch of, because the thing is, they didn't know any metallurgy, so they couldn't make iron weaponry. So they had a big stick with a bunch of stone tool blades put in it. And they fought that while wearing jaguar skin. They didn't wear armor. They wore like stuff to replicate the animals, or they wore like stuff to cover up their privates and like a shield with feathers on it. And they're fighting dudes with black powder muskets and swords and bows and arrows and hardened armor of metal. These guys are pretty hardcore.
Bath salts is a hell of a drug, but like honestly, that it's discussing things like Mayan culture that makes me wonder, like, every metal band you see, they have some kind of Viking-themed album.
Yeah.
Where are the Mayan metal bands? Like, where are the Mayan metal bands? I guess it's just because none of them can, like, grumble any of these names. Like, you can't be like, Quetzalcoatl. You really can't. It doesn't work. But at the same time, the Mayans were metal as hell.
They were. Like, you really can't. You can go, like, or something like that, like Odin,
the gate of Valhalla.
But like you can't do like you can't go and we travel to Teotihuacan.
Oh man, even Christopher Lee didn't want to try that. Even Christopher Lee didn't want to give that one a shot.
And
he's the man who will stop a making of movie to tell you how to pronounce things correctly.
Yeah, didn't he stop? Didn't he like interrupt? Who directed Lord of the Rings? I can't remember.
Peter Jackson.
Thank you. When like Peter Jackson was trying to give him direction on like how to be stabbed by Wormtongue, he was like, "You ever been stabbed?" Because when you get stabbed, this is what happens.
Like he basically,
he also
what
like
he said
in
with being stabbing. What he said is just pretend like you're just been stabbed. Like make this noise that you could envision somebody being stabbed in the back. He said, "I don't have to pretend."
Right. Like,
because I know like in almost every making of behind the scenes, he goes, "And for the record, this name is pronounced this way."
Yeah, like Christopher Lee. Like I want to be that grandpa.
Oh, wait.
I want to be Christopher Lee tier.
Right? That would be awesome. But wait. You know how he said the Aztecs didn't have Netflix? Well, they had something. This was, I would say, this is the precursor. Because this is the precursor.
The precursor to Netflix.
No, it's
Mayan
Xbox.
Netflix.
They worship Xantigo, who is the goddess of Firebox. It's the precursor to Xbox. It's a lot more hardcore. It's a lot more hardcore, this Firebox. Okay. And it's basically a box of fire.
Were there achievements?
And you play with it.
You play with box of fire.
Like,
did they have achievements?
Is it like hot potato?
I guess so. I don't really know how it works, but it's a goddess of the Firebox. And I assume it's multiplayer capable. And
well, I would hope so.
Well, if it isn't, then it's
fire by myself.
Well, if it isn't, then it's so not worth our time.
Yeah, but like
it's clearly behind the times.
For any fearless gamers who have any remote interest in ancient culture, we all know Egypt because Egyptology is really cool, and we know of like ancient
Greek and Rome,
Greco-Roman stuff. We know of even Asian stuff, but like the Aztec Mayan stuff. I'm not saying nobody knows about it, but there's so much there that all we know is really the tip of the iceberg because that's all we could pronounce. And and you look at everything else, like an Aztec. I wanted to meet like an expert in like ancient Aztec and ancient Maya who can supposedly pronounce these words just so I can bring a list and be like, say these.
Say them so I can hear them once in my life. But when you're talking about the firebox, honestly, I thought you were going to go on to be like, they had this form of theater where it would be two dudes with weapons over a pit, and you just got one side of the audience like shouting at one dude and the other side of the audience shouting at the other going, forward! High punch! Low kick!
Well, it kind of... Well,
but of course, it all comes out as like,
yeah.
sound like you're throwing up. Like,
well, they did have something like that. Remember, they had like gladiatorial sport where they had prisoners of war go up against warriors dressed in the similar attire, except the actual jaguar warrior has the Mayan sword with the blades in it, and the jaguar pelt and everything, and the slave who's fighting against him wears feather armor with a feather shield, and his big wooden stick, instead of having blades, has feathers in its place.
You see, that's better than what I was expecting you to say. I thought you were just going to say that the slave is just standing there with his in his hand. Like,
No.
like,
No.
Just sitting there like, I'm naked and about to die. Like,
no, because he doesn't have anything functional, but he does have a wooden stick with feathers on it. And it's not just like people think wooden stick. It's the core of that
right,
sword.
It's just the war sword without the blades. So what happened if the slave won? Like somehow managed to like pull it off, like Gladiator style.
I don't know, because in school and in the readings they never tell you that a slave wins, so I have no idea.
It probably never happened. There was probably no Maximus or I just take every consonant and put an I in there somewhere, and that's his name.
I can't even do like a parody of that with names because it's.
I am Dominicus.
You can't pronounce it. I could write it out. I'm gonna write out my equivalent.
I am proud of us. This went on way longer than I thought it would.
That's my version of it.
Yeah, you know what? That looks authentic.
Yeah, for anyone who's interested, he spelt it MAHUANTZIHUILICUXUS.
It looks authentic. Something has to.
It does.
So that's from here on out. That's how the Mayans would say Maximus.
Heck, the Aztec, the language that they're speaking is not Aztec. We call it Aztec because it's called Nahuatl.
We can't pronounce the name.
It's Nahuatl. It's like Nahuatl or something like that. And we're like, you know what? They speak Aztec. It's done.
Yeah, you're done. You got it.
And like this is like Aztecs, the Mayans, we put the Incas and the Olmecs in this category as well. People just with names we'd rather not pronounce.
I'm sorry. When you say Olmec, I think Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Well, yeah, that's basically Olmec.
Yeah. They were a race of giant rock faces. I mean, did you not read your history book? I mean, come on, man, pay attention.
That rock face is straight from Olmec, ancient Olmec sculpture look. That's what they did.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that's what they did.
Because
I've never
Legends
heard
of the Hidden
this
Temple was hype.
Well,
it was.
Olmec, you know why you never hear of Olmec? Because everybody who thinks in the Mesoamerican ancient times just flat out forgets about Olmec. And then they just classify everything as Maya Aztec. And they go, Incas.
You don't really hear about the Olmecs in like high school.
Yeah, no.
No, but like it's like so in Mesoamerica we have the Olmecs and the Incas and then the Aztecs and the Mayans. and we'll focus on the Aztec and the Mayans because the other two, whatever. It's already hard enough to focus on these two. So.
It was funny. My first exposure to the Olmecs being like a separate group of people was a couple months ago. Robin's dad. We were at dinner, and he was like, we were talking about which was the explorer that was like looking for the Fountain of Youth.
I forget the one you're talking about, but I want to rebut with which one wasn't. But
fair, but like the one that was like famously looking for.
Yeah,
it.
I forget who.
I forget his name.
Well, that guy.
Ponce de Leon.
Yeah, I think it was Ponce de Leon. He was like, did Ponce? Like he was like, where did Ponce de Leon look? And he was like asking all these questions, which weren't like. He wasn't, like, trying to be, like, hostile. He was genuinely curious. And I was like, huh.
He's very curious,
So Robin and I bust out our magic internet phones. That if you were to show those to the Mayans or the Inca, they'd probably just murder you.
They probably would.
And we're, like, looking it up, and we're like, after about 10 minutes, we're like, who the hell are the Olmec? And of course, we ultimately could not find an answer.
Right.
But we found out about the Olmec, and it's like, oh man, this is like that the first time you learn how, like this is like in Pokemon 1 when you learn how to like evolve Graveler. How did that happen?
Right. Well, I don't know about Ponce de Olmec, but I do know that he did travel in Florida area.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where they believed it was.
Roughly.
But that could be in anything from Florida to like the tip of South America. I mean,
right.
Yep.
That's the Florida region. It's okay. It's whatever. He got words with too many letters in them. And yeah. So you know what? Everybody right now, the three of us right now, let's pat ourselves on the back for talking about the Aztec and the Mayans for this long. It's impressive
for like 20 minutes.
None of us having a nosebleed.
According to the clock, officially 24 minutes.
And nobody has had an aneurysm and died from it yet, which is fantastic because of the words.
We haven't tried too hard to pronounce them. It's sort of like it's like in a Call of Cthulhu game. If you really don't read the books that much, you're all right.
Yeah. And speaking of, something new came out this week.
What have I done?
What have you done?
Nothing bad. A data slate has come out. The Officio Assassinorium, the Assassin's data sheet, with some interesting new changes to them.
Yeah, I heard it made them.
Cthulhu.
I have nothing.
No, he said nobody died, and I was like, speaking of dying,
that's a really broad segue.
You know, I was expecting it to spring up Nagash, who is an awesome-looking model.
He is awesome.
The only thing that I don't like about his model is his gigantic Pope hat of epicness. The stronger of an extra-dimensional type of being of magic you are, the bigger your hat gets, because his hat is as tall as most models.
Yes, he is a pretty freaking tall model.
And that's another thing. What is it with, like, it's not just GW.
There he is.
It's not just GW. What is it with, like, power equates gigantic size? He was a dude. He was a human.
Oh, man, the Pope is jealous.
That hat is amazing.
I want that hat. Like, people listen to you when you have a hat like that.
Now, here's the thing. GW's offering an offer that I'm half tempted to buy. You get for, he's $100 himself.
Yeah.
And I think for $140 or something, you get $190 for him and the book?
Yeah, because the book's $85 and he's $105, so it's the same price.
Okay. All right. But I've been half tempted to pick that up because that model looks awesome.
Now, looking at the faces on these ghosts, they're all like, yo, check out the head! I mean, their jaws have all dropped.
Yeah, they're like,
it is true.
My God. That's what they're
Even he's like, whoa!
My hat!
Did we just turn like the bane of all things living into a dude who just goes, dude, my hat?
That's where all the power is, clearly. Exactly. But because everything is focusing on the hat.
That's why Henry has a hammer, so he can smash the hat.
Yeah, Harry. It's Harry. Right?
Harry.
If we're gonna compare awesome fantasy names, you gotta do it right. It's Harry.
Right, Harry the Hammer.
But you know what's crazy is the fact that the rules are set up so he can field him in an army full of both Tomb Kings and Vampire Counts together because they hated each other. But like he can make an undead legion of both together in one army with him.
Yes.
Which is interesting, but I do have to say though, Nagash, he's a really big deal for anybody who doesn't really know anything about Warhammer Fantasy. This would be the equivalent of saying, I don't know, Mortarion decided to invade the Imperium. This would be the equivalent of saying, like, the god of death came to like Earth and went, hey, what's up? Fight me. Like that's how big Nagash is. How big of a deal he is.
It's like Gary Gygax came back.
Right, but wanted to kill everything.
Right, he came back.
Yeah.
End of
That's
story.
What'll happen if he comes back.
But like,
he'll have a big hat, you know.
Like this would be the equivalent of like if the Emperor from Star Wars came back in a way that wasn't lame, and tried to kill everything.
Not a clone?
Honestly, it would just be like a dark Force ghost. I don't know why they can't just do that. Like a Force ghost that can actually mess with stuff, like a Force poltergeist.
That'd be cool. And you know what?
Now I'm just picturing the movie Poltergeist in the Star Wars universe, and that's goddamn terrifying.
Yeah, that movie was creepy.
Like that would be a whole planet. Like just the Emperor, just messing with everything. God, Carol Ann would be like a little blue girl or something like that.
But like looking at Nagash though, it just reminds me because every so often you gotta be reminded about things you like. Of like, he's not technically a lich, but how much I love the idea of a lich in fantasy. And there should be more things that utilize the lich concept in fantasy and modern sci-fi and sci-fi. Because a lich is terrifying.
They are pretty terrifying. You can't kill them unless you find that thing.
Yeah, I don't mess with glitches.
And good luck finding that thing.
And, I forget, I think I was talking with Matt DeCon about this. When we were looking at, like, the Epic level handbook, when I had, like, the Demo Lich, which was, like, a really strong Lich, but it was just a part, it was just like a skull. And we thought we could recreate... And we thought, it would be really terrifying to throw against adventurers.
A whole skeleton of them.
A whole skeleton of them rebirth as, like, the god, the pantheon of death, the god of death reborn, basically, as a skeleton of them.
The Council of the Damned, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. It would basically equal game over. Because, even Taras is like, I'm out, no,
yeah,
I'm out.
Honestly, I feel like we did the math and we were like, the gods are fucked. Like,
they are.
Everyone's doomed.
Even that tree thing that can kill all the gods.
The Hecton Kyries?
Yeah.
Not really a tree thing, but yeah, no, that thing would be screwed too.
Yeah.
And you know what I also thought about the other day? It was like, we did D&D. I remember D&D 3.5, a lot of fun. We were and then like 4th edition, like 4th ed. And then it came out and we're like, whatever.
Didn't a new edition just come out?
Yeah, the 5th edition Player's Handbook just dropped last week.
Yeah, because I went to a game store and I was like, I didn't know this was a thing.
It's not bad. I was going to keep a lid on it until I got a look at it.
Yeah.
Just because if it was garbage, I was like, maybe I can make sure nobody knows. It's not bad. It's honestly, it feels like they took 4th edition and took a step back towards 3rd. So it's like you have some of the streamlined aspects of 4th.
Right.
Okay.
With a lot more of the character of 3rd. Like each of all the classes feel distinct. There's none of that feeling like you're playing the same thing when you're playing 2 separate classes thing going on.
Okay.
That was the problem with when we were all looking at the hype of 4th Ed coming out, and we were like, man, it sounds interesting. The problem was like, wow, everything feels so watered down.
Yep.
And it
that was
felt
my
like
problem
a pen and paper MMO. It felt like, because I when you play, like I'm playing right now a free to play game, it's kind of fun Rifts, and it dawned on me the other day, I'm like, this is basically a video game version of how D&D 4th Ed is in terms of like just the streamline of it. But the game was more fun because you had more character and more development in there with the classes than you do with 4th Ed. But
right. That was a problem. It's got a lot of the characteristics of 3rd in that each of the classes, rather than being like you have this many at-wills, this many encounters, and this many dailies, you have your class features, like you did in 3rd.
Okay.
But a lot of the streamlined aspects of like regaining HP, like when you rest, and certain stuff like that. Like I think fighters still have second wind or something like that. I have to take a closer look. Honestly, I looked at the Bard class and a couple of the other classes briefly, but I really just poured over the Bard because I love the Bard. Skills are handled similarly to 4th edition in that you don't really have skill points. You select skills that you are proficient at, and you get a bonus to those, whereas the other classes you do not. Rather, the other skills you do not. Feats are a thing, but you don't get as many, from what I can tell.
Okay.
I think when you get a stat raise, you can either choose to take the stat raise or a feat instead. So there's less of them overall, and they all feel a bit more important.
Okay.
But ultimately, the book is thinner. Like, it's not super heavy. I was like, holding it, I'm like, oh, hey.
You know what's funny
I
about
remember that.
Just thinking about 4th Ed, and the whole idea about 4th Ed, how it was billed, was like, yeah, you're going to need less books to play the game. I'm like, hold up, D&D company. You're not going to just stop producing. You're going to produce all these books. What are you talking about? Don't lie.
They lied.
You're a bold-faced liar. Of course you're going to make a whole bunch of different expansion books, player books, and things like that.
Also, spellcasting is somewhat different.
Really? Because that's always my big thing. I like wizards.
You, basically, by my understanding, and I need to read it more closely, instead of having, like, spells per day, you have spell slots. Like, you have a certain number of spells that you know, and then you have... It's essentially spells per day, but slightly differently. Because I don't know if preparation... Again, I have to read it more closely. But I don't think preparation is as big of a deal. Like, let's say you have 4 first-level spell slots and 2 second-level spell slots. I think you can use your spell slots kind of as you see fit. And if you want to use your second-level spell slots for first-level spells, you super can. Also, I read a couple of the spell descriptions, and they're a bit more fluffy and a little less number crunchy. which I kind of like, but again, I need to read spellcasting more closely. It just, from what I saw of it, it looks very different than how it's been in the past.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I was always, like, I liked the wizard, but it was always like, I felt like too chorish to do half the spells half the time.
Yeah, and, like, I don't know, I like the fact of what you're saying, it seems a bit more third-eddy, because, like, I remember playing D&D 3.5, it felt like we had a band of characters. It felt very good. Like, it felt like this is a story being told. That's why I love Pathfinder. And then when I saw 4th Ed, I just pictured in my mind when 4th Ed came out and hit. I'm like, you know what this is like? This is like if I walked into a gaming store with my character sheet saying looking for group. Like, it felt like just a casual dungeon crawl. Like, I got a paladin looking for group. He's healer tank spec. And it's just like that's what it felt like. Except for being in a game where you're spamming it on looking for group channel, you just go into a store with people being nerdy and you go character sheet looking for group.
Yeah.
My experience with it, I don't even want to equate it to an MMO because when I was playing it, I played 3 separate characters in the campaign that I played in. Because the first one totally died, the second one ditched the party, and the third one, well, he made it to the end. The first one was a melee DPS. The second one was some kind of like weird druid style tank controller, and then the third one was, I think, a straight up warlock. And they all literally felt the same. It was just the only difference that I felt between the characters was where am I standing in relation to everything else.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was just like, okay, pick target, do thing. Which, I mean, the thing was always X amount of damage.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the abilities
there was one or two interesting class features, I think.
Yeah. A lot of it just ended up being where are you standing and how much damage you do when you're standing here.
Yeah. I will say that the one thing about 5th edition that has stood out to me the most, that I'm curious to see how it works in execution, they have something called advantage and disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, advantage is you gain advantage, for example, I think when you're like flanking something. Or, or like when they're flat-footed or something. Like, you gain advantage under certain circumstances, and you gain disadvantage when you have, like, certain statuses and stuff like that, again, circumstances. Okay. And when you have advantage, you roll 2d20s, and you take the better result.
Interesting.
When you have disadvantage, you roll 2d20s, and you take the crappier result. So, like, if you have disadvantage, and you roll, like, an 18 and a 2... You're taking that. You roll the 2. If you have advantage and you roll like a 1 and a 20, you're getting that 20.
Yeah.
You know, so it's interesting. It's just the only concern I have about it, and again, I have to wait to see what it's like in actual execution.
A game
is that it feels a little cumbersome because it's throwing an extra d20 into the mix, but it could be cool. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds
interesting.
And it makes me immediately think, I don't know why, of tennis. You're like, advantage.
Tennis?
Advantage. Just no advantage. It's just because they have like a modified rule set where no advantages are advantage in tennis in terms of like scoring or whatnot. So when I heard like you have an advantage thing, I don't know why I thought tennis. Because I don't like tennis. I'm terrible at it. So, random things from the wild card. I'm going to drink my apple juice now.
Drink. It's my urine.
Tastes good.
Well,
he knows. He harvests it.
I've been eating apples.
Whoa. That reminds me of that coffee that a cat eats the beans and they poop it out.
Poops it out and they make it into coffee.
Who was the first person to go make that a coffee stat?
The same person to look at a cow's udders and go, I'm gonna drink whatever comes out of that. Like, human beings are gross, dude.
And I thought about that for other foods, like eating an oyster. It's like, what's that? That's a rock with snot in it. I'm gonna eat that.
Curiosity.
Like anything you put into our bodies.
So it's one of those things where they dared you. Like, there was that one dude where you're like, I dared Timmy to do this, and Timmy said, right. Hey, this is actually kind of good.
But when you think about it, the history of food and stuff like that is full of people dropping dead. And, like, So, like, if somebody went,
I can understand.
Yeah.
Huh?
Go ahead.
You can understand.
I can understand, like, meat and, like, berries and stuff like that, because, like, we see like, animals doing it, and we're like, okay, maybe that's tasty.
Right.
But, like, then, like, primitive cultures invented the enema.
Yeah, they did. I don't know why.
There's not a single animal in the wild that does that.
Are you sure?
I've never been more certain of it in my damn life.
But like, no, you're right about that though. Like, you see an animal do it. Okay, eat the berry. Oh, that one killed Jimmy, so don't eat that bush of berries. Eat this bush of berries. But I can even see that with like cows' udders, because you see the babies nursing it. Okay, fine. Maybe it's something for humans. I don't know why you'd think that, you sick, perverted ancestor, but you did.
Right.
And but then it's cat eats coffee beans. Cat poops out coffee beans and poop. Make into coffee. There is no correlation to anything ever.
Yeah, like, let's boil that and drink it. That sounds like a great idea.
It's like, it's just, you look at the stuff that we eat, and, like, granted, everything's genetically modified now. I don't mean because we're doing it in a lab. I mean because we pick things with traits we like, and we breed that to make things. That's how you get seedless fruit and whatnot.
Yep.
Right.
Like, that's called cultivating your crops and everything, and growing your livestock. But, like, you look at certain things and you just go, what? What were you thinking? And my favorite is seafood. And we look at a lobster, which is a really big insect.
Yeah. It's the scorpion of the sea. It's like, instead of a stinger, it's got a flipper.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, imagine if the giant sea scorpion still existed. That would be awesome.
I would want to eat it. I'm not gonna lie. I would want to try one.
But like, you look at things and you go, you really want to eat that? First off, it's trying to kill us. Like you want to take this thing with claws, trying to rip your appendage off, and then we got to throw it right into boiling hot water.
You know, I think I can offer some perspective on that part. I think maybe it's a very human thing to want to eat anything that tries to kill us.
Yeah.
Because when I was... This is a very modern first world equivalent. But maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I had bought a pizza. And I ate some of the pizza, but then it was like, hey, who wants to go to see a movie? And I was like, I want to go to see a movie. And I left the house. And I left the pizza not in the fridge. In my room with the air conditioning, but, so I didn't think it was going to go bad.
It's like a very docile fridge.
Right. It's a very big fridge. But when I come home, this pizza, and this is like well more than half of a pizza, is just awash with ants. Like, it was ant pizza.
Ugh.
And I had spent a good amount of money on this pizza. It had a lot of toppings. It had like 5 or 6 toppings.
The ants were delighted.
I'm like knocking the ants off of it and like moving the slices as much as I can, but finally it comes down to like the ant last stand on the final slice. And every time I try and knock them off, all their friends just jump back on it.
Firstly, I commend your dedication to trying to eat the pizza still. Because for me, as much as money I would have spent on a thing of pizza pie, I'm like, the ants have desecrated it. It is now gone.
Well, I was unemployed at the time.
Right, but I just
so I didn't have a choice. But anyway, so the ants are having their last stand on the final slice, and they will not back down. They went full 300. So I ate that slice of pizza, ants and all, to show them that humans are superior. Like, just to prove to them that you cannot stop me from reclaiming what is mine.
I give you street cred. I give you first world street cred for that.
Yes.
But at the same time...
It was okay. I was picking ants out of my beard for a couple days. Because back then I had the full beard going. So I think maybe that's part of why we ate weird stuff from the ocean, because we saw it, we went, no, we're going to show you that we will eat the crap out of you. We will do it.
Yeah, okay.
We are better than you.
All right, but I see that, but then I see, like, that stubbornness, because I'm a very stubborn person, so I completely understand it. Mm-hmm. But I'm pragmatic enough to step back and say, wait a minute, like the blowfish. You know, there's that one slice of it that you can eat, that one part, but if you cut it wrong, you get horribly sick and could die. So there's got to be a point in the process of humanity where somebody's like, listen, why don't we stop trying to eat the blowfish?
Well, don't get me wrong, if it had been like fire ants, I would have been like, well, you've won. You've defeated me. Or even like carpenter ants, but they were like little house ants. Like, I knew I could take them.
No, I got you.
So I do understand what you're getting at. Like, I personally don't support the concept of eating that pufferfish, because it's like either you are very much taking your life into your own hands, or putting your life into the hands of somebody you've never met.
Right, and here's the deal. I don't trust anybody, even if you're the best pufferfish slicer in the world, you know, best sushi, whatever it is that does it, the best guy who makes that
like
that
Jiro.
stuff. Yeah, I don't care if that's like, I don't care if you are the triple platinum award winner of pufferfish preparation. I don't trust you enough to eat what you just gave me.
Nope.
I don't trust you enough to eat what you just gave me, even if I had the antidote that I can inject directly into me right next to me.
I don't think I would trust a machine to do it.
Right. I don't trust anything to do it. Like, as far as I know, the pufferfish can be the taste of pure ecstasy, and I will just have to say whatever because I'm not trying. I don't trust anything enough.
I'm gonna be missing out for a while
because I don't trust anything enough because I have that kind of luck. That's the type of luck I have, where it could be 100% fine, but for some reason, my piece, you could take the same piece between two people, we can cut it down the middle, I'll get killed or really seriously ill, and the other person will be fine because that's my type of luck, even if they're both sides supposed to be fine. Mm-hmm. I would have the magical mystery tainted part, and that's just how my luck works, so I don't trust anything.
I hear you.
I love pufferfish though. In terms of like, I caught
They're adorable.
When I was fishing, and you don't try to catch them, it just happens. So you catch them, and then try to get them off. You pick them up, and you go, and they puff up immediately. And like, dude, I'm trying to get the hook out of your mouth. You got to calm down. So it kind of like relaxes a little bit, and you kind of get the thing out of the pufferfish's mouth. But then like it squawks at you kind of almost. So then you rub its belly, and it puffs up again. And then when I did that, I threw it back into the water, so it was floating on top of the water, and then shrunk and sunk. It was awesome.
You know,
and every time I caught a pufferfish, I'd do that. I'll be like, okay, make you inflate. All right, into the water you go. And then it'll be like, I'm safe. Sink. It was perfect. The most fun I've had fishing was catching pufferfish.
Yeah, pufferfish are pretty cool. I do like those.
I find them oddly adorable too.
Speaking of fish, I saw this awesome video of there were some dudes. They were clearly shark fishing, and they had They had like a 5-foot shark. I don't know what kind. Not like none of the really like particularly badass types of shark, but it was like a 5-foot shark on the line, and they're not reeling it in for some reason. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And then up from the depths, 30 stories high, breathing fire. No, basically, what I found out is called I think it's called like a colossus grouper or something like that.
I know what you're talking about.
Comes up out of the deep and devours the 5-foot shark in a single swallow, and then just swims off, like, into the sunset.
like it ain't no thing.
Like that shark was bait for the grouper. And I'm sitting here going, was that CG? Like, did that really happen? And I had to, like, Google this particular type of fish. And I looked at it and I went, yeah, I'm never going in the water. Like this thing will just it's like a titan. It's like a titan grouper or something.
Yeah. Basically, look up grouper fish. Like if you kind of like find the grouper fish family, you'll find like the king of all groupers, the one that eats sharks. And then you go, and then you wonder why somebody like me likes to scuba dive. And then I wonder sometimes, why do I like to scuba dive? But like,
colossal grouper. Goliath grouper. It's a Goliath grouper.
Yep. Galapper eats 4-foot shark in one big bite.
Yep, that's it. And the thing is, the ocean deep is terrifying. Like,
yeah, I don't like the ocean. I'm not a fan.
Like,
but at the same time,
I like scuba diving. But at the same time, while I like it a lot, I'm also never really did open water scuba diving where you're just in the middle and 60 feet down is your shipwreck you dive, because that's a little bit hairy for me. I've done stuff off the coast, and I should correct that. When I was in underwater field school for underwater archaeology field school, we did a shipwreck in the Key Largo, but it was off. It was like a mile or so off, but it's still shallow water and very clear. So I felt very safe in terms of no colossal thing no Cthulhu thing from the was going to eat me, and that's why that's why Cthulhu stuff weighs so heavily on people's minds because it's so ocean depth drawing from.
Because we don't know if there's something like that somewhere in there. We've only probed like a small percentage of it.
We know more about the universe,
surface of the moon,
and the surface of the moon and outer space than we know about our own ocean.
Yeah. Because that stuff's scary. We don't want to go down there.
It is. That's why there was a thing. It was a series called Unidentified Submerged Objects, USOs, kind of like UFOs, but underwater. And it's, the thing that I saw about that, a lot of people go, this is stupid. I'm like, well, first off, you got to understand what we're saying. We're not saying alien stuff underwater or alien unidentified flying object. It's just unidentified.
I like the show.
It's just, we don't know what it is.
It lives there that we don't... I'm terrified for us to really start exploring the deep because... A, we might find, deep ones. Yeah, we might find, deep ones and, Cthulhu. But B, we might find Gungans. and I don't know which is worse.
I don't think we'll find Gungans, because you know what I think we'll find before we find that? I think we'll first find out that the Megalodon is still alive.
No, don't say that. Don't say
that.
And
the moment we actually confirm that, because there's been some rumored speculation on that, and especially some photos from World War I and World War II submarines that are out in the ocean, and they have this huge fin span thing, and they're saying this could be a shark. If it is, it's the size of a megalodon, essentially. The moment we discover that is the moment that because I still want to visit places like Europe, and I also want to fly or take a boat somewhere. The moment we discover that is a thing, I am staying terrestrial.
Yeah, the moment we discovered that as a thing, I'm getting on a spaceship and leaving. I'm leaving this planet. That or the moment jellyfish manage to walk on land, I'm gone.
Well, and also when we discovered
here's your megalodon.
When we discovered the colossal,
I know what a megalodon is.
No, but I like the picture there.
Yeah, eats whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
It's true. And when we discovered that colossal squid, the one we actually caught on camera for reals, not just a tentacle that we saw or a dead thing washed up, but a real one doing stuff, I'm like, my God, I was in water that thing's a part of.
Yep. You know what kind of throws me off about it too, though, is the octopus is smart enough to solve a Rubik's Cube.
He can walk on land.
The octopus actually has a certain level of near-human intelligence.
It's just dispersed differently.
What's to say that the octopus isn't just the sea chimp, and there's they have some
sea
cousin, exactly a sea human that is a cousin of the octopus, just chilling around somewhere even deeper, building crazy underwater skyscrapers or whatever.
No,
we don't know.
You know what? You're exactly right. I'm not saying that to be comedy. We don't know. And the thing is, the octopus and the squids are really intelligent. The octopus a bit more so. And the crazy thing about the octopus is, its intelligence is also in its arms. So its arm has a certain amount of intelligence.
Me out. Yeah.
But
you cut off one of the arms, and it'll keep moving and looking for stuff.
Yeah, and which is freaky. And but an octopus can move on land. Now, that can happen, and then what maybe what's even crazier is when you have coastal flooding in areas with that stuff, where it's enough, because there was something on Long Island, you guys had that big torrential flooding storm.
Yeah.
There was pictures of dudes, this one dude's lawn, and there's a snapping turtle just swimming across, yo, what up?
Hey guys.
Because it's so submerged. Now take it to a place where octopods, octopuses, whatever you want to call them, I don't care, they're freaky and cool, live, and squid and stuff, where it's going to be hey, dude, what's up? Come out here. No, I got your mail. You can
I'll
keep
stay
my mail.
Inside, thank you.
You can keep the mail. I didn't want the subscription anyway. You just keep it. You just go away. It's freaky. And,
here's another one.
Yeah. By the way, that picture I put up, I totally agree with. The Imperial system's way better for space. But yeah, no, ocean is freaky. It's deep. There's, stuff sinks down there, but like I'm not just saying that, but it gets eaten by stuff that's even freakier. You have anglerfish, which are just like they're like the heralds of terrible things to come.
They have the most awful reproduction cycle of all the creatures on this planet.
You don't want to be a male.
Most terrifying. Yeah, you don't want to be a male anglerfish because you're itty bitty, and then like you find a girl that you really like, you get to know her, and then you just kind of latch onto her and slowly melt until you're nothing but a pair of testes.
Yeah. Like, you basically meld with the female, but like, I want to become one, and then you just sacrifice yourself so your reproductive organs can fertilize the female. But the thing is, they are, in my opinion, the heralds of the terrible of the deep. Like, they're like, you ain't seen nothing yet, and we're crazy looking.
They're the gatekeepers.
Yeah, it's like, you want to come down here into this party? And it's like, no, not really.
You better be prepared for this.
And there's so much crazy stuff down there, and, You know what else I find pretty crazy? The Man of War.
I don't want to talk about jellyfish.
The Man of War is the freakiest one, though, because you can see it from the surface. Like, don't go over there.
Yep.
You don't want any of this.
At least it's polite, unlike the Irukandji, which people thought didn't exist for like 1,000 years.
Is that the one that's really tiny that you can't tell, like the little small box jellyfish?
It's really small, and it's like clear, so it's not invisible. But
it's opening up.
Nothing.
But no, is that the one that's related to the box jelly?
I don't know what it's related to, but I do know that like if it touches you,
you die basically almost.
You're basically dead. And I think it was like a couple of scientists like managed to catch one in a jar, and it was like a scientist and his sons, and like to prove it existed, they all stuck their hands in the jar, and like one of them survived.
Yeah, no, it was something along those lines. I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's the craziest thing about that line of jellyfish is to keep them in captivity, it has to be in a circular tank with current to keep them off the edges. Because if they touch the glass, they'll die.
Interesting.
Because they're so tiny and fragile, and like they're like brushed with a glass. It's like us getting hit by a semi-truck going 65. So, so it's like...
Which will kill you. Most likely.
Yes. But they're so tiny, and if you do survive, you have to be basically in the ICU ward, and no amount of painkillers will take away the fact that you want to die from the pain. And that's crazy. You know what else is crazy? Is the stupid blue ring octopus.
Oh yeah, the blue ring octopus.
The one that's really curious and will go into the palm of your hands just to kill you.
Yeah,
blue ring octopus.
It doesn't. It's just really poisonous, and it doesn't know. Like you can't really blame it. It's just like a new friend. Why does this always happen?
Nobody likes me. They'd rather play dead.
That's another group of people that'd rather fake their death than hang out with you.
Basically. But like, yeah. No, that's one of the reasons why I got into scuba diving is not to die horribly, but to
I don't know.
But it's to just be down there and see some of the more tame, crazy stuff. Like, remember the hurricane that came up years back, and it one of the aquariums on the coast lost like their entire stock of lionfish.
Oh man, lionfish will mess you up too.
Yeah, but they made it to Long Island. When I was scuba diving, I saw a lionfish who was looking at me going like, I dare you. And I'm like, you just go away.
I double dare you.
Like, I swear the lionfish knows about the powers it has. Because it's like, I dare you. Come here. Do it. And it's like, I don't want to. Stop being so pushy. Go away. But the terrors of the deep, man, I think, zombie flicks are still a thing. We still have monsters and paranormal, but I think, instead of making Paranormal Activity 27, just make a movie called The Deep, and it'll scare the bejesus out of everybody.
There was a movie called The Deep.
It's like, make a movie called This Is the Ocean, and it's not even fiction. You just take a camera and you just drop it somewhere deep, like really deep that we haven't been to, and then eventually just pull it back up and put that in theaters.
You know what? Now you said that, I have to give. I want to give a shout out of respect, but no, seriously, like those marine biologists and oceanographers and scientists who go into the submersibles that can withstand the pressure of 1,000,000 suns to get to like the ocean floor certain areas, you guys are crazy because you're going down there in a completely like spherical thing that's mostly clear so you can see out of it.
For all you know, Godzilla is going to show up.
Yeah. And trusting it won't just get crushed. You're trusting the science says it'll work. It'll hold. We swear. You're trusting that. Number one. Number two, it's dark. Your lights are going to attract all sorts of attention. You don't know what's down there. You find these discoveries like these weird shrimp and these weird octopus things and squid things
and the Goliaths.
And then the Goliath group is going to eat you. It's just like right. The Megalodon is going to be like, listen, you pissed me off for the last time with your lights. I'm going to eat you and your ship.
You woke me up.
Like, those people who do that, I've always thought, man, that's really cool. And then as I got older, more wiser, I went, that's ridiculously terrifying.
You're either really brave or really stupid. I haven't figured out which.
Yeah, especially...
Or maybe a little bit of column A and maybe a little bit of column B.
It's just two people in a circular pod going, yeah, this won't get crushed. Look good. And it's like, excuse me, sir? Because some of the stuff they find on the ocean floor, and when they can get to it, is fascinating. Like the lake underneath the ocean.
Yeah, I saw that.
Gas.
It just that's terrifying. What's in there?
It's one of these things. Like I want to know, what do they have to like hear on like a sound recording system before they'll sit there and go, we're just going to pretend we didn't hear that. Like, what noise or what image, like, where's the border when they just say,
there isn't one.
Did you see that? No, neither did I.
There isn't one. We're human. Humanity is that species of, did you hear that? We gotta know what it is. And then we look into it and we doom the galaxy by waking up something we shouldn't have.
Because we're super curious. And the thing is, you combine that with being a scientist. Did you hear that? I never heard it before in my life. Now we're going to be famous. And it's like, no, stop.
Right.
Finally, you'll be famous for the wrong reasons.
It's like just
you'll be famous for dooming us all, not for discovering the cure for something.
I cannot wait to publish
not
this.
Be waking up right now. So, like, it's freaky.
You ever hear of a Shoggoth?
Like, there's a reason why, like, to bring it back to D&D real quick, I always found the Mind Flayers particularly creepy. Because, like, it's like the ocean meets terrestrial. And it's like, oh my god.
I remember
and the things they do you were awful.
Our camera girl, back when Dark Souls or Demon Souls, I forget which one, was very popular, and I'm just sitting at home, and she sits there and goes, "What's a mind flare?" And I went, "Run." That's what it is. Just run.
Yeah, get out of there. Get out of there. Do not.
Right.
If you must go in, bring salt. They will appreciate it.
And you know what? I think a big part of that is the imagery of like the tentacle face and being like from the deep. I think if it looked more normal, it wouldn't be as terrifying.
No, if you look at an octopus, it's kind of scary.
It is.
It's super alien to us. You put that on a human body, people are going to open fire. Like, I don't care. I don't care if this thing is bringing us the cure for all diseases. You put an octopus head on a human body. And we are just like, I personally will start shooting. Like, I don't care what it
better not be at first contact or any contact.
It could be bringing me like the pill that will cure all of my diseases, and then also turn me into Captain Freaking America. And I'm going to hit it with a stick until it stops moving.
Like, I don't care what you have to say. I'll stay myself.
Exactly.
Like that. I mean, like. I don't know why more horror stuff hasn't drawn from the deep, really. You know, the deep ocean. I really don't understand why. I mean,
it's probably a budget thing.
Maybe it is, but you don't have to actually. It doesn't have to be like that TV series, like Giant Squid or whatever, where like we had like the baby corpse and the giant squid was sentient enough to want it back and killed a whole bunch of people on a ship.
That was such a bad movie, dude, but I loved it.
Right, but it was awesome at the same time because you're like, because imagine being on a boat and having this gigantic squid tentacle arm pop up.
Oh,
it's like
I will not imagine that. I do not want to imagine that.
Who wants to imagine that?
even worse because you're not imagining it on a little dinky lifeboat or like a rowboat. You're like on this big research vessel. Like that is big enough to come up here. Where's the gun? I need to blow my brains out right now because I don't want to.
I can pinpoint the moment where I became fascinated by the terrors of the deep, as it were. Uh-huh. And I don't remember the name of it, but there's an old arcade game where you're like underwater and like you have like a little harpoon gun, and you have to like research. You're doing a number of like almost archaeological dives, but ultimately you end up like uncovering like the mythological creatures of the deep. And I never got very far in the game because I was bad at it. But in like the cutscene where it's like if you just let it play before putting money in, and it just gives you the cutscene to try and draw you in. Yeah. There's a part where there's like this big pirate ship, and then just a shark, just the biggest, like basically a megalodon, just shows up and just in 2 chomps gets through the boat and then just is gone, and the boat is sinking, or what's left of it. And I saw that and I went, this is the hypest thing I've ever seen. And in that moment I went, what if that's a real thing? And that's how it all began. I mean,
like, that's a crazy thing. Like, what kind of got me started, even though I never really read it, because it was just, to be honest, I really never have because I'm lazy. But even as a kid, just all the references to Moby Dick. When I went, now really a big, like, and then like, oh, look, I've been to the Museum of Natural History to see the big whale on the ceiling. Like, that thing is enormous. And that's when I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Like, something giant. And it's like dinosaurs are not still alive, clearly, but something along those sizes is still around. And then, like, you see things about ancient reports of sea creatures and sea monsters and all this stuff. And then we're starting to find now, and also, you know, in the recent now, and it's like a few years ago and whatnot, we're finding all of these, what were just terrifying monsters of the deep of imagination, we said. And now we're like, well, turns out our ancestors had right to be afraid. Be very afraid. I feel like these squids haven't found flying.
I think the name is Ocean Hunter.
Yes. Yes, I remember Ocean
very
Hunter.
Familiar. But like, be very afraid, essentially. But you don't actually fear it, but it's really interesting. But at the same time, it's like, man, if those squids ever learn how to fly, we are screwed. Like our biggest ally, if the ocean deep and everything just kind of manifested into horrible creatures wanting to destroy the world tomorrow, our only saving grace of help is going to be the dolphins.
Yeah,
they're like
unless they're the ones that. Well, we think they're the good guys. We don't really know that they're the good guys.
You're right.
They could be the plotters.
They might be the ones that are like, hey, humanity, there's something we need to tell you. And that something is get off our planet.
Like, forget Planet of the Apes, Planet of the Dolphins, and Planet of the Ocean, all right?
Yeah.
Like, wow. Oh, man. Seriously, though, I think it's just 3 of us, but we're 3 separate people. I'm sure plenty of fearless gamers can sympathize in the idea of the deeper you go in the ocean, the more terrifying the idea is. Because, when you think about it, we're land-based. The further deep down you go, you get to a point where sunlight doesn't reach you. The sun is like, screw this, I'm out.
Yeah. the sun just gives up and goes home.
Yeah, and you're like, sun, you always had my back before. Where'd you go? And then the ocean is like, now we get to play.
Now you're in my world.
We would like to play.
Oh.
That's right. I went Nintendo. I went full Nintendo.
Full on Nintendo?
What? You know, yeah, you did. You really did. And it's deserving. But, yeah. So, we went from Nagash to...
Well, we went to Mayans from Nagash to Oceans.
Yeah, but how... I understand we got from Mayan to Nagash. I'm trying to figure out... I forgot already how we got to the ocean thing.
I don't keep track of these things.
Coffee.
I think it was someone didn't want to talk about the assassins, so they came up with some random thing to talk about.
No, I don't think it was. I don't think it was at all, because the assassins...
No, it was a bit more natural than that.
Yeah.
I forget what it was.
We got.
Oh, it was from eating things.
Yeah, it was the cat poo coffee got us to weird foods, got us to the ocean.
Yes.
Right.
But yeah, no, the assassin thing is out. It's assassins. You know, what more can we say aside from the fact that they got a beefy enhancement, I believe.
They've got some pretty interesting things now. They've got these new universal special rules. One which is you gain an extra victory point if the assassin kills the warlord.
Yeah.
They get a 4-up invuln save and a -2 to lookout sirs when you're attacking against assassins. And a lot of them all got really beefed up to the point where pretty much any of them are worth taking now.
Right, when you're a unit type in any game, not just 40K, but when your unit type or something is assassin, you're implied to be some sort of a mofo. You know, you're implied to be some sort of a epic dude. Even if you're just like a sniper assassin or like a blade guy, you're not expected to be like the end-all be-all winner of all combat, but you're expected to be kind of hype. And they didn't really have that.
The Evisor got really good, and the Calexis got really good, because, like, he now just messes with the psychic phase.
Right, which is good unless you're playing Tau or Necron.
Yeah.
Or anybody who does not really using the psychic phase, which is the most...
Well, that's when you use one of the other dudes. Because of this codex, I might actually pick up the Space Marine codex and play a small Space Marine force, because my Dark Angels will never use assassins.
Right.
Because fluff.
Right. But it's just like... You know, that's the thing with assassins is they're specialized. They got to be strong and really good at what they do, but they also are also specialized to the point of, well, they kind of like the Calexis is quite frankly of the 4 assassins the most pointless to take in most games, because really psychic potential when you look at all the pickup games you can do. Yes, the meta game he might become a bit more impressive to use, but you rarely encounter the psychic phase.
Yep.
So there's that. When
his
it comes
biggest
to that
thing now is he's basically an anti-psyker, so he's only really good now against psychic-heavy Space Marine units or Eldar.
Right. But
because he's got all these, like, insta-kills against psychers, he's got,
yeah. Well, that's
you
like
can't
the new,
generate warp charges around him.
That's like the new Grey Knights Codex that came out. They're, like, they really brought him back to being, if you got the Demon Special rule, you're screwed against them.
Yeah.
Which is how they... Always, that's how they used to be, and then they got a nice buff with new stuff because they just had like 3 units and that was it. Now they got some more stuff. They didn't get anything new in this codex, but they brought them back to being, oh, you're a demon, I'm so sorry. And that's how they should be considering their fluff. Yep. But it's also very now in the case of that being there are Space Marines to boot, they're not quite as helpless when they're not fighting demons. It's just that hey, they're really good with demons. But when you're an assassin for anything, and that's why whenever I look at war games that have things called assassins or they bring up like a ninja thing, I'm always hesitant to like really look into them because I'm like, oh, that's cool, but at the same time I'm thinking, you know, that implies some type of speciality that I don't like to utilize because I'm terrible at gaming, and if you're specialized, I don't know how to use you. So that's how I am. You gotta be.
I'm thinking of picking this up just for like small, like Kill Team, Zone Mortalis type games, because I think that's when the assassins actually look and utilize it very well.
Probably, when you think about it, they're not. They shouldn't be in really, really big games. They're not meant to be. They're assassins.
Yeah.
They're meant to be like. We've all played some sort of Assassin's Creed. You're not in the middle of a battlefield. You're like killing somebody and then running away in an epic way of epicness.
Yes.
Like by parkouring, like. Assassin's Creed was basically kill things and then parkour. Like that was
so
the game.
Good.
It was good, but
especially the new one, the Black Flag was so good.
No, they're good, and that should be like that was probably the working title: Kill Things and Parkour, and then they gave it an actual title to sell it. But when I was actually at a local comic store the other day, and I actually picked up the Grey Knights Codex because I'm interested in doing things with it in the future. But so I wanted to see how it was, but. I was surprised. They actually had Infinity stuff for sale there. It was one shelf, literally just one shelf of stuff, but it was Infinity. I'm like, hey, look at this stuff.
Which is funny. I was talking to a guy, and I'm not a big fan of a lot of the Assassin models. I don't like how they look.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked how the Special Edition Vindicare, I really want the Vindicare the Special Edition to come back and just be the normal one. Mm-hmm. And... So I was like, oh, I really want to get them, but I don't like the Vindicare Assassin. He's like, just get an Infinity model. They pretty much look like the Vindicare Assassin.
Well, yeah, some of them do. And they really do. But but I was really surprised to see Infinity models there, just because, not because nobody plays Infinity, it's just that it's not that, in the realm of size, it's small.
Out of all the games to pick, Infinity seems a little odd.
Yeah, but it literally is just one shelf beneath like a whole bunch of spray paints. So it's like it's not a particularly extensive thing. But
you know what it is? He went, no one's going to buy these models to test out their paint techniques. Let's give them some Infinity models. No one plays that game.
Right, but they had a decent selection of Infinity stuff. And I couldn't tell you what because I don't know what half the stuff are. But they also had the book books there, a starter set. Like it was surprising. So that was cool to see, just because you're always so used to walking into a store that sells gaming stuff and go, okay, GW, Flames of War, Privateer Press, and then random
Fantasy Flight.
Yeah, Fantasy Flight stuff and random hokey things. And then you got and then like overstock of Star Trek because nobody plays that game. But like seriously, just make it. Just stop producing the rules for Star Trek and just
give up.
Just give up.
Start
rules.
over.
Don't even start over. Just give up and take Star Wars rules. Just do that.
Well, from what I've heard, they took the flight mechanics in Attack Wing, and that was it.
Fantastic. Well, they should just. It should be a carbon copy, but replace things that reference X-wings and TIE fighters with Star Trek words, like
Star Trek words.
Yeah. Like, Klingons and Federation in place of Rebels and Imperial, like stuff like that. You just because literally
the Astrotech droid gives you 3 shields, switches to the Engineer gives you 3 shields.
Exactly, something. Simple.
It sounded for a second like you said the Aztec droid, and and that kind of brought me full circle.
Yeah. Well, the Aztec droid would give you 3 shields if you could withstand listening to it talk.
Yeah.
Or if you could address it properly to get its attention.
Yes.
It won't listen to me. Well, you've been mispronouncing half its name. Of course, it's not going to identify you.
So I as a result, I put in the little chat part. That's how I think the Aztecs would spell R2D2.
For anyone who is curious, he spelt it RHITIUZLDHITZUIUL.
Right, and you're pretty good at making up Aztec words, like fake Aztec names for stuff.
I will laugh if half these words are actually real.
Like if that was actually a thing. That would be pretty awesome. But you know what it reminds me of a bit? Warhammer Online Skaven names for stuff.
Skaven names for stuff?
Like, the Skaven didn't obviously have Aztec names, but you saw some, they were NPCs there, and certain words that were in certain things just had a vaguely similar look to it from Warhammer Online.
Like, it was a lot more consonants than vowels.
Yeah.
That game was so good.
I really enjoyed Warhammer Online. It's a pity it couldn't survive as a free-to-play, like Rift.
Yeah.
Because
to this day, it was like my favorite MMO experience.
It really was. I mean, for anybody who didn't have the privilege, as it were, to play it, what it did really well, and you could see it in stuff like even WoW has basically took all the successful things from Warhammer and adopted it, which is a good move on their part, obviously. But you had PvP lakes, which weren't really new or anything, but they did them in a cool way. It just felt more engaging. They had like siege weaponry that you could operate to defend your castles and stuff. Like you had like. Yeah, I remember especially higher end level when I got to like the end game stuff. I was defending castles as a chosen warrior dude, sword and shield instead of trying to be DPS. I'm on super tank, and I remember it's me, a couple other dudes, and like it literally was community versus community on either side, like faction versus faction, and it was awesome because when you're in that experience and if you're a tank and you get healed properly, you feel like you're actually doing something. Like in other MMOs, you're like, oh, I died. Well, nobody cares because nobody cares about the tank. But everything had a purpose, and the quests. The nice thing about them was their quests felt good. Like I'm noticing one of the things I hate in MMOs is fetch quests.
Don't talk to me about fetch quests.
They're easy experience, but they're terrible. especially when you gotta do it like 17 times in a row. You're like, why I want to kill things.
It's poor game design is the problem.
What I really disliked, and this always happened to me, was when I used to play WoW, they used to give me this, like, you're a level 18 dude. Here's a level 18 quest. It's stuck in the level 50s alliance section.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah, I hated that too. And one of my best examples of that was I was a warlock when I played WoW for a little bit. And there's two quests to get your succubus when you level up to get it. There's the undead one and the orc one. The orc one involves talking like 3 dudes and you got it. The undead one, because I didn't know there was an orc one, I had to run. I was like a level whatever. I had to run to like level 30 zone that was open PvP. Through that to a high level alliance zone to kill this one NPC dude.
Yep.
And I got ganked so many times that when I got there, most of my gear was broken, needing repair, and I barely killed the dude to get the quest item. And it was stupid. The only thing dumber are fetch quests, because it really does, like, I understand a fetch quest like this. You're in one area. Let's say this area is supposed to be level 10 to level 13, right? And you did all the quests, you're like level 13, 14, depending upon any grinding. All right, the next quest you get from the guy is see so-and-so in the next village, or see so-and-so at this fortress. Okay. It gives me a reason to go a certain place, walk down that area, get there, initiate more quests to kill things. That's okay.
That's not really a fetch quest.
No, it's not. But it could be. But what it could be is take this and bring it there.
Right. But yeah, like it always bothers me. It's like, all right, you're level 8. Go out and kill some wolves. All right, congratulations, you're level 15. Go out and kill the brown wolves.
Yeah. That was
like,
the thing.
You're fighting like 6 different colors of wolf for like 30 levels.
You are.
And it just
now
makes you want to hang
yourself. Now fight the gigantic wolf that's glowing. What?
Right. Like, that was something I really liked about Lord of the Rings Online and Warhammer Online specifically. I never felt like I was fighting the same crap over and over again. Like, every zone was super distinct, especially in Warhammer Online.
Oh, yeah.
I never got out of the starter zone.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you need to get good. And then in Lord of the Rings Online, like, at least when you're playing as a hobbit, there's a point where you have to fight a warg. And that warg is a big deal.
Well, yeah.
And in a lot of other games, it's like, just use the name warg or direwolf because that sounds more awesome. It's like, but it kind of takes away the
idea.
The feeling.
Yeah, and that's why, like, one of the things I liked about Ultima Online was the fact that because of that, it was that in EverQuest back in the day, and I remember trying out EverQuest for a bit, and I was like, so you want me to beat up these giant bees with a stick to improve my spell power? Because I don't have enough spell power right now. I'm not a high enough wizard.
EverQuest had its flaws.
Right. But that's why I've always kind of liked a system like Ultima Online is a system I've always really enjoyed because, you want me to be a better mage? Why don't you cast some spells? Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. But then it's like, what I liked with War especially was like, all right, we're going to level you up. But when, don't kill wolves. Raid this human town. If you're Chaos, okay? Just raid this town, and you do it, and have open PvP, and then do these instance battles, which actually affect things. But it's mostly like, even when it's this quest where you're killing NPCs, it's like, oh, we have a war camp right next to this small village. Pillage it. And it's like, these are awesome quests. I'm not killing wolves.
They always felt more awesome. Like on the Order side, one of the early, open world quests was a bunch of Chaos dudes are performing a ritual at the windmill. Awful things are going to happen. You please do something.
I remember that quest.
It was awesome.
Then a chaos giant appears at the end of it. And you're like, oh my god, this is the first time I see something this big.
Please help.
Yeah.
That's why I'm hoping that Eternal Crusade actually holds up pretty well because I want another 40k MMO. I want another Warhammer 40k MMO.
Honestly, I would drag my through a mile of broken glass for Mythic to just take the entire system for Warhammer Online, apply either an original IP or some other IP to it, just basically give it a different coat of paint, and put it out under a different name so I can play it again. Because honestly, the setting and the IP, they were cool, but ultimately it was everything else about it that I loved.
Yeah,
and I would readily pay top dollar to play that game again under maybe a potentially more marketable IP.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it was great. I can't remember how many times even though I was getting killed by it, the horn squig knocking me flying off of a castle top was hilarious.
That was always awesome. That was always awesome.
And you know it's coming because all of a sudden you're fighting things. You see the squig in the distance turn and face you and start galloping. You're like, oh, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt so bad.
Yep. And there's really nothing you can do to stop it.
It's like, no, even if I block, I go flying. It's great. All right, well, it's been fun, guys. Somebody
Team Rocket is blasting off again.
Up again.
And
with that, we are out of time.
Yeah.
Is that we're blasting off again?
Yep. So, thank you all for listening, and until next time, Fearless Gamers, this is Matt the Vet.
The wild card.
Clown.
I got you. I got it in there first. That's what I said.
Saying take care.
Have a good one, guys.